I'm kind of nervous up here. I'm shaking. Mr. Adolf Hitler stood, he gave a speech just up here. It's a symbol of Poland. It is a symbol of the strength of this country. It is a symbol of the strength of the people of this country. Well, welcome back to Wrocław. I am here in this beautiful city once again, and this time you find me on the north side of the old town in a district called Nadodrze. I hope the Poles can excuse my pronunciation of all these words. This doesn't come naturally to me. But Nadodrze, which I think is how you say it, but I could be completely wrong. It could be Leicester or Leicester, depending on how you say tomato or tomato. It's just north of the Oder River from Wrocław's bustling old town. It's a district steeped in history and raw charm, and it was once the industrial hub. Here I am right now in the colourful backyards of Nadodrze. That's what it's called on the map, and this is what was recommended I go check out by my taxi driver on the way from the airport to the centre. Not disappointed in terms of there certainly is a lot of art here.
Sure, you're an expert taxi driver, and I don't mean to belittle your profession, but why should I listen to your opinion on art?
It is effectively an old, I guess what you would define as a Soviet housing estate, and instead of the usual pretty trees and children's playgrounds, they still have those. If you have a look over here, we have the classic Soviet playground and we have the classic pretty trees.
Soviet made.
But what we do have instead is obviously a very artistic community, to the degree that, check this out, we got, look at this, I'll twizzle the camera around, got a lot of houses. And to get here, you have to walk fairly towards the north of the centre of the city. Interesting dog, this one.
Happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, happy, joy, joy.
Godzilla here. Check out Godzilla. We have some really, really strange art. It seems it's a free-for-all. Massive cat over here. Look at this massive cat. Looks a bit scared of something. Jaws in the background. We're just going to pan around and let's just enjoy this art. Almost like we can do a Tony Hart on, what was that program called? Tony Hart's?
Heartbeat?
Heartbeat. Cue the Heartbeat music. No, that's Heartbeat was another show. That was a Heartbeat. Tony Hart with Morph. But what was the show called? It wasn't Heartbeat, because Heartbeat was that.
Heartbeat was that 1960s kind of rural police show. Heartbeat. Didn't it have some play on heart and art? It wasn't Heart Attacks.
No,
that was Neil Buchanan. He'd make big things on the floor.
A complicated one like this. Look at that.
I don't know what it was called. It was definitely Tony Hart, but it wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't Heart Attack, or it wasn't Heart Attack. It wasn't Heartbeat.
It's gonna be the best heart attack of all time.
What was it? It was like BBC with.
What was it? With Morph.
Hello. Having a bit of trouble with this light.
This is, I presume, the people that live here.
I don't know if he's right. It says he had a show called Take Heart, which ran from 1977.
It wasn't called Take Heart. No way.
For the start of our series.
Good variety of materials, I think, too, Tony.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. And here's the address if you want to send us some work. Heartbeat, BBC Television.
Nadodrze has faced a share of struggles, but has also seen efforts to breathe new life into its streets. Among those efforts is the Colourful Backyards project, a community-led initiative that aims to bring a splash of character to these hidden courtyards in this residential district. Nadodrze's history is as layered as its weathered walls. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, it was a working-class neighbourhood, bustling with factories and workshops. Back then, it was part of the German city of Breslau, an industrial powerhouse of its time. But the Second World War and its aftermath reshaped Nadodrze, And as the city became part of Poland, as the city's German population was replaced almost entirely, the area changed. In the decades that followed, the district fell into huge decline. The Germans had left at this point. Its once thriving streets became shadows of their former selves. For years, Nadodrze was overlooked, a place you pass through rather than a destination. But in recent years, there's been a push to reinvigorate the area, and the Colourful Backyards project is one of those attempts. Now, the first impressions of these backyards, they're not what you would call masterpieces, but they do bring a certain charm. The murals, the mosaics, and the sculptures scattered across these courtyards are, at their core, an attempt to reclaim the spaces that have been neglected for decades. They add a layer of personality to the area, sometimes quirky, sometimes a bit rough around the edges, but always with a story to tell. It's a sincere effort that brings a touch of brightness to the otherwise grey surroundings. Now, what makes these backyards interesting isn't necessarily the art itself, but the stories behind them. Many of the projects were collaborative, with local residents joining artists to create something that felt like it belonged to them. It's an exercise in community more than creativity, a way for the people of the area to reclaim their courtyards and make them their own. Some of the murals even include subtle nods to Wrocław's history, like mythical creatures tiled to local legends or symbols that only those familiar with the area might understand. It's art that isn't trying to be grand, it's just trying to be part of the fabric of the neighbourhood. Nadodrze as a whole isn't polished, its charm lies in its imperfections, the peeling facades, the pre-war tenements, and even the unevenly executed art all tell a story of a neighbourhood that's been through a lot, but also hasn't lost its character. It's not trying to be a gentrified district in Krakow, it's just a place for better or worse. Now, it's obvious a lot of this art has been done on a bit of a shoestring budget, but that's part of what makes it unique, I think. Some courtyards feature small installations that reference pre-war German history, like inscriptions or patterns that harken back to the district's Breslau days. These aren't overt, but offer a subtle nod to the area's layered past. Now, while these backyards might not win awards, they are honest reflections of the district, imperfect, unpolished, but with a certain rough around the edges charm. They tell a story of a community trying to bring a little life back to the streets. One brushstroke, one tile, one quirky idea at a time. So if you're in Wrocław and looking for something a bit off the beaten path, these backyards are safe to wander, not for the art itself, but for what they say about the people who call this place home. Well, this is the Church of 11,000 Virgins. Yes, you heard that right, 11,000 virgins. This intriguing name comes from the legend of Saint Ursula, a Christian martyr from the 4th or potentially 5th century, we're not sure. The story goes that Ursula, a British princess in fact, embarked on a pilgrimage to Rome accompanied by, wait for it, 11,000 virgins. Now, on their return, they encountered the Huns, who demanded they abandon their faith. Refusing to comply, Ursula and her companions were martyred for their beliefs. You can only imagine what that entailed. When I say martyred, this probably meant the mass gang rape of these innocent women, and then killed for their beliefs. So the story became a powerful symbol of faith and courage, and it's inspired devotion across Europe, including here in Wrocław. The church's name honours this legend, and its neo-Romanesque architecture serves as a fitting tribute to this extraordinary tale of bravery and sacrifice. Now, whether you believe in the story or see it as a medieval exaggeration, one thing is certain: the Church of 11,000 Virgins shows the power of faith and endurance through the ages. So it's my third full day in Wrocław, and I am now on my own. My good friend Nikki C is headed back to London, but I thought, because sometimes it's very difficult to film when one is with someone. I'll cross here without getting run over. Can't jaywalk in this town. You can cross at certain crossings. Because my good friend Nikki C is headed home. That's the Hackney Hop Hunter. Hackney Hopster Hunter. Hackney Hop Hunter. He's already on his way home. Now it's just basically for me to explore the rest of the city. So I'm ready for some more exploration of this uniquely, surprisingly beautiful city. And I have to say, every corner of this city has surprised me. And it's a huge city. Really, really big city, as obviously you're becoming to understand. And it has some of the most amazing churches, cathedrals, probably one of the best craft beer scenes I've experienced in a long time. Good value, good restaurants, beautiful parks. Look at this one. See if you can see that. Really beautiful parks. Everything's very well manicured. Everything, and I just keep stressing this, insanely clean, insanely clean. Rubbish bins actually being used. People seem to get on, and you know the reason people seem to get on, because they live in a high trust society. They live in a society where people identify with a similar sort of tribe. They all have this common ground that they share. They all share this Polish identity. Very, very beautiful identity. Insanely beautiful. This guy, let me just show you, just pan around again. Look at this. Everywhere you go, there's something to see. From modernism, to older architecture, to this city seems to be famous for the fact there's rivers everywhere. Beautiful rivers everywhere. Wonderful, wonderful city. So it's been a number of days since I first entered this city, and I find myself right in front of the two houses that are known as the Hansel and Gretel houses. And right behind us is the church, the St. Elizabeth of Hungary church. The scary one that we climbed 304 steps and we had to come down and another 304 steps. I have to say, if you're a little bit squeamish on heights, I do not recommend that one. But for the view, it is fantastic, and well, just like all these things, you've got to try everything once. You might be regretting it at the time, but you should always try something. So I thought it'd be appropriate, because I haven't managed to do this, is to walk through the magnificent market square in the centre of Wrocław. And this is the beautiful square. It starts off, obviously we can start off at any corner really, but we can start in this corner over here. The Hansel and Gretel houses, and we can sort of navigate our way around the entire square. Around this square we have things like galleries, there's a bank over there, there's beautiful restaurants, Polish restaurants. Over here, you might remember from my visits to Poznan, I'm sure some of you have watched some of those videos, we talk about the amazing poet called Adam Mickiewicz. Well, there's actually an Adam Mickiewicz museum in this direction over here. And I hear it's very much worth a visit. I only just learnt this. Over here, you can see it here. But it's closing literally in the next couple of minutes. So maybe I'll try and do that tomorrow. But I think it's this is one of these cities, like around every single corner there's a surprise. Over here, this is supposed to be a fountain. It's seen better days. It's not functioning at the moment, and it's a little bit disappointing. At the moment, I'm staying in an apartment just down there, right in the middle of the square, for a princely sum of $25 a night. I got that price. Actually, link in the description if you're curious, but basically it's cheaper to visit here during the week. You're going to come here at the weekends, that apartment might cost you a lot more money. But let's continue around this square. The wind has calmed down. It was a little bit windy this morning. I spent the day editing some videos and editing some content. Who knows when I will be editing this content. Look at the magnificent buildings, like every single one is a sight to behold. This is the next corner of the square we find ourselves on. Let me flip the camera. Look at this. This is the famous beer hall over here. Truly remarkable. This is where the beer wars that Nicky C was talking about sort of emulated from. But over here, we're going to just take in this corner of the square over here, because it's a square that leads onto another square. I hope we can hear each other. The wind has picked up, obviously a bit of a gust.
Gust of wind.
A throughway. But over here, actually I think I probably showed you this. It's where all of those flowers are. So just to give you some sort of basis of where this is. I cut to where those flowers are. Beautiful flowers. There's an amazing restaurant over this way called Jolie, really good for brunches. It's one of 2 restaurants in the city called Jolie, and it's highly rated. I think it's 4.8. If you want waffles and pancakes, if you want a healthy breakfast, or when I say healthy, I mean like guacamole, eggs, hummus, something along those lines, that's the place to go. The coffee is actually really good. Even Mr. Ray Ridge would be quite pleased with the coffee over there. Over here, as we turn back onto the square, we now see a number of different restaurants. I have to say, I haven't had a bad meal here yet. I'm sure there's a few tourist traps, but it's just a case of, you know, using the resources when you can, the Google Maps, the TripAdvisors, asking locals. Obviously, when you're asking locals, make sure they're sort of in the same sort of level as you. I'm always a bit perturbed when people think it's a good idea to ask a 18-year-old where the best place for a whiskey might be. They probably haven't got a clue. So think about who your audience is before you ask them something.
What do you recommend?
Over here is someone by my name, but obviously far more important than myself is this guy. He's an Alexander. Let's have a look at him. Look at this guy, Alexander. H.R. Fredro. Let's have a look quick panorama to him. Now this is Alexander Fredro, one of Poland's most beloved literary figures. He was born in 1793 in the small village of Wrocław. Now he actually came from a very noble Polish family, and it's my belief that he was very much inspired by living in Lviv, which is present-day Ukraine. Then, and still now, it was the vibrant cultural hub of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Now Fredro is celebrated for his witty comedies and sharp social satire. His works include Revenge and The Maiden's Vows. His plays capture the quirks of Polish society and explore the complexities of human relationships with humour and insight, I'm told. Most interestingly, though, this statue didn't always stand in Wrocław. It originally adorned Lviv, but after World War II and the redrawing of the borders, it was relocated here, preserving Fredro's legacy within Poland. I'm sure the people of Lviv miss him greatly. Have a look at this place over here. You might remember from all the many videos in Ukraine, we have a place called Apteka. That just basically means pharmacy. It's the same in Ukraine as it is in Polish.
There is a pharmacy across the street.
But I have to say that is probably one of the most beautiful buildings in the square. The time they've spent on it, let me just sort of turn the camera around so you can have a quick look. It's phenomenal. Well, that was a brief tour of the square. I know we appreciate it, didn't really see anything. We didn't really see too much, but honestly, it's a wonderful square. This is me finishing off with a cider and a hot dog. Cheers to you. Cheers to Wrocław. Cheers. Another tower, another beautiful church. This is a church of Mary Magdalene. Ironically so, because Mary Magdalene is criticised in some parts of the church, depending on which part of the church you follow in the Christian faith. Some believe that Mary Magdalene was possibly Jesus' girlfriend/wife. But up here is the Bridge of Pertinence. We're basically punishing a woman that chose not to settle down. I don't know if there's any way if that's linked to Mary Magdalene or anything, but you see the bridge up there? That's where we're going to go. That's where we're going to go. We can't film inside the church, but we can film the stairs going up. So join me for that. The cathedral was built in the 13th century. This Gothic structure was once the most prominent of churches in Wrocław, a city that has shifted identities countless times. Back then, the cathedral stood as a spiritual centre for a city on the crossroads of trade routes and empires. As we climb these steps, let me paint a picture of what lies within the Cathedral of St. Mary Magdalena. Apologies I couldn't film inside the interior, but the interior is as fascinating as the structure itself. The church Gothic design extends inward with towering stone columns that stretch towards the heavens, creating an overwhelming sense of verticality and space. The vaulted ceiling, adorned with intricate ribbing, gives the impression of a forest carved in stone, a place designed to draw your gaze upwards just like many of the churches I've captured in my videos on Wrocław. Please do refer to my last video if you're curious, because it's very similar to the St. Elizabeth Catholic Church. The light filters through narrow pointed windows, casting long, colourful beams that sift over the day. These windows once told stories, biblical scenes and local legends meant to inspire and educate the congregation that couldn't read. You can almost imagine the flicker of candlelight and the sound of hymns resonating off the cold stone, and the whispers of prayer that have echoed here for centuries. This place dates back to the 13th century after all, and though the church has been rebuilt and restored over the years, its soul remains intact, a place of quiet reflection and deep history, even if much of the detail has been softened by time. But for me, the real draw isn't just the space below, it's the feature high above where this climb leads. The Bridge of Witches, and that, my friends, is a story worth waiting for. So made it to the top a little bit out of breath, 204 steps, so not as high as the other one. And this is the platform. There's only 2 different churches in all of Europe that has a platform like this, a platform that crosses the towers. The story that this young lady was punished and sent up to basically sweep the towers forever, all because she refused to settle down and refused to stop going to parties. It's quite a telling one. It's like a one to tell the daughters, like, stop partying all the time, stop buying all those expensive gifts, stop buying those expensive dresses and shoes, and do what you're supposed to do. That's the kind of old story that this story is supposed to portray. But let's try and go onto this platform. I know there's some people up there now. Wow. I mean, this is kind of scary. We're on this platform here. Just me up here with the whole city. Wow. Okay. Here's the witch. This is where the witch would have to sweep. Well, this is the young lady that wouldn't refuse to settle down. And she refused to settle down. And because of that, she was punished, but another witch saved her. Well, a man in Wrocław Square agreed to save her, courtesy of another witch, and she was finally released. But as you can see, that's the scary one over there that I previously did. That was scary. It was just very steep, those steps, but it's just a magnificent city. I do suffer from vertigo, so this is quite intimidating. They call this walkway the Bridge of Witches, and while to most people it isn't that high, at the end of the day it was just under 300 steps to get up here. But the story goes that this bridge is actually haunted by the spirits of all young women who, instead of living virtuous and pious lives, chose a more indulgent path. The women who died, who neglected their duties and ignored the expectations of their time, for their sins they were condemned to haunt this bridge forever, sweeping it clean as a punishment for their worldly ways. And ghost hunters claim this bridge is very haunted. Maybe that's why I was getting a very uneasy feeling while being on this bridge. Who knows what was about to tap me on the shoulder or try to jolt me into falling off the Bridge of Witches. A witch can never be trusted after all. Hello? Okay. Slight problem. Is this fate trying to tell a trick on me? The fact that I have not settled down and married, and now I'm stuck here on this bridge, and I need to sweep this forever. I genuinely can't get out. Oh, there we go.
You push it hard enough, it'll open.
That was kind of scary. I knew someone would come up here eventually, but don't start trying to pull it. Push. Retard. It's a real shame I can't film down in the church. It's a really, really beautiful church, but it does say no filming. So for this time, I'm just going to respect that and no filming. But obviously, you can film in the tower, you can film outside. 15 zloty, so that's about just under £3, just probably about $3.20, $3.50. Yeah, great view. Just a little bit intimidated by heights. That is a blustery platform. I'm in this beautiful park named after this man here. This is a Juliusz Słowacki, and you forgive me, Polish people, for probably mispronouncing his name. I'm reading it as Juliusz Słowacki, or Slovak. It's either Słowacki or Słowacki, I'm not entirely sure. But in a way, this guy, and he looks very similar to him, he's posing in the same sort of nonchalant type way. I don't know if I'm going to sort of do him any disrespect here, but say that he's the Polish Oscar Wilde. He was a romantic writer, and for that, because he's considered to be one of Poland's greatest romantic writers, he's been given this, well, he hasn't been given, he's no longer sadly with us. But this park, this beautiful park all around me, is named after him. So this park, southeastern side, near the Pinter Bar, which the Hackney Hop Hunter took in. And they're probably one of the reasons why I haven't seen that many statues since I've been here. But a fine statue and a fine little park. A lot of coaches around here. Coaches are clearly parked up because there's a lot to see around here. And one of the things we're going to go see, I'm going to see some more monuments this way. So let's head this way as we walk past these beautiful ravens. Look at these guys. You see that guy? Look at that guy there. I think if we look off into the distance over here, we can see that there's a fair number of modern art statues around here. There was a modern art statue back there and I didn't film it. Basically a girl with pigtails. One of these modern art pieces I don't think does justice to the world. Even Poland has the odd monstrosity, but generally most things in Poland, Central Europe, Eastern Europe as well, I know Poland is Central Europe, generally is very pleasing on the eyes. I wish it could be said for the monuments that are now being installed all over London and the United Kingdom. Monstrosities seem to be the way to go. But over here we're coming across this beautiful monument and I think it's going to commemorate the dead. So let's just have a look. So this says here, in the spring of 1940, on Stalin's orders, 22,000 Polish army officers, policemen and other prisoners of war detained at the Kozielegs, Ostalstov and Starobskie camps were shot in the back of the head in Katień, Medinian, Kharkov and other places in the Soviet Union. In memory of these victims, this monument was funded by their compatriots led by the Lower Silesian Emily of Katień, Wrocław, 1999. A truly, truly haunting memorial and a very respectful memorial, but it just goes to show the impact an atrocious ideology that is communism can have on the world. What's shocking me is it still exists. There are still idiots in the West who think we haven't had true communism. And I know I've said this multiple times, but the day the world rids itself of the ideology that is communism, neo-Marxism, can't come soon enough. Atrocious ideology. And we are heading in towards repeating that again and again and again, because we keep having people believing that they know better. Now this is something truly extraordinary. This is Panorama Racławicka, I hope I'm saying that right, but it is one of Wrocław's most iconic cultural gems. It's not just a painting, this is an experience. Now imagine stepping back in time to April 1794, right into the chaos of the Battle of Racławicz. This masterpiece, stretching an immense 114 meters in length and towering 15 meters in height, places you smack in the middle of Poland's fight for freedom. This was an immense battle. Picture this, Tadeusz Kaskakulko, please excuse my pronunciation, a man described as having charisma and one of the greatest tactical minds in military history, led a scrappy force of Polish peasants, some armed with nothing more than pitchforks, against the might of the Russian Empire. And guess what? They actually won. Against all odds, they won. It's the kind of victory that legends are made of. And this painting captures all of it. Every moment, every face, every spark of determination. And that's why all these years later, right in the heart of Wrocław, this battle is still celebrated. The detail here is incredible in my mind. Look at the peasants with their makeshift weapons standing shoulder to shoulder with soldiers. You can almost hear the roar of the cannons and feel the tension in the air. And then there's Kalushko himself poised on horseback, commanding the battlefield like a man who knows history is watching. I guarantee that day he said strength and honor to his men.
Strength and honor.
Strength and honor.
Strength and honor.
What's truly remarkable about this is the panorama blurs the lines between art and reality. It's not your typical painting, it's an illusion. Artists like Jan Stickler and Wojciech Kozak didn't just rely on brushstrokes, they added real objects into the foreground. Dirt, rocks, and even pieces of cannon debris to make it feel like you're standing right there. It's almost cinematic. This actually debuted in 1894 in present-day Ukraine, in the beautiful town of Lviv, which I know many of my regular viewers will know, a city I have much love for. If you can imagine it, it was the IMAX of the 19th century. Nothing like this had ever really been seen. But the story of this panorama isn't just about what's on the canvas, it's about survival. After the Second World War, when the borders shifted and Poland reclaims Wrocław, the painting made the journey too. It was hidden away during the communist years. Its message of national pride seems a little too dangerous. It wasn't until 1985 that it was finally unveiled here in this custom-built rotunda. And standing here now, surrounded by this epic scene, you can feel this piece really matters. It's not just about a single battle, it's about the resilience, about Poland's fight to hold on to its identity through the centuries of struggle. It's about remembering where you came from, no matter how turbulent the journey. So my advice, honestly, I genuinely mean this, if you ever find yourself in Wrocław, do yourself a favor, step inside the Panorama Racławicka, maybe learn to pronounce it better than me, because this is not just a painting, it's a portal to Poland's past, and trust me, once you've seen it, you'll never forget it. I really, really enjoyed this. So that was originally built in 1985, but obviously from a painting from the 19th century that was originally kept and stored and put on display in Lviv, which is now Ukraine. It was there until effectively Lviv was attacked and the building came under attack and the painting got very badly damaged, but they had to fold it up, put it into a 15-meter frame that could store it, and it was moved, it was kept in storage in a safe place in Lviv. Then obviously as Lviv became Ukraine and Poland became Poland after the Second World War, it wanted its art back. So it moved on to Warsaw, and then it came all the way back to Wrocław. And it was here where they built this fascinating, very Soviet, brutalist building to protect the amazing art piece. And I have to say, I really am impressed. It was a little bit expensive. It was 50 zloty. It was about £10 really, but you know what? That was £10 of education, enjoyment. I found that fascinating. I love the fact that it was probably commissioned in the sense that it's considered a Soviet victory or a Russian victory, and it was built in 1985 during obviously communist rule, but it really represents the strength of Poland because it was the peasants of Poland rising up against the oppressors and fighting back. And I have to say, impressive, but what a waste of life. 1,000 Russians died that day, 500 Poles died that day, soldiers that is. I'm sure many more peasants died, and truly remarkable. But look, you can see this building and the shape of it here. It's a sort of curved building, and it really captures and retains that beautiful piece of art really well. I think it's one for the family, that one. From the outside, I assumed it would be a church, and I think probably it used to be a church, but this is now the Museum of architecture. And you know what? Out of all of the European cities in contention, modernism and ancient architecture seem to blend in quite well. Sadly, we still get monstrosities like this one, for example, right opposite the Museum of Architecture. This one's a little bit more tolerable, but it's not great. It's a shame they can't build buildings like they used to, and maybe that's a reason to have a museum for architecture. It seems to, well, it's closed unless I can find a way in. I would like architects to learn that they don't know better than those that came before them. Most of the time, most modern architecture is an absolute state. I'm not sure what to make of this apartment building here. Look at this. I'm not sure the apartments are very nice. Certainly nicer than most apartment blocks, but when you have such beautiful old buildings, sort of straight lines and the sort of coldness of modern architecture doesn't really draw you in. Something I definitely take away from this visit to Wrocław, it's not a city you can see in a day. It's not even a city you can see in a weekend. There's so much to see, it's huge. It's like trying to tell someone, oh yeah, you can see everything in London in one weekend. You simply cannot. As a Londoner, I'm still discovering new things about London, positives and negatives. But it's Wrocław, it has this beautiful, unique centre, but it goes out and it goes out. It's a very large city. And if you're really interested in the details of the city, you're not going to see it all. What that basically means, repeat visit is going to have to be on the cards. And I don't object to that. Flights from the UK are very reasonable. I can fly back and forth between London and Wrocław, very affordable price. To get here, it cost me, I think it was £30 return. That tells you how accessible Wrocław is. But let's have a look at this monument here. Let's have a look. It always hits home when I stumble across monuments like this. This is a monument to the victims of the UPA movement, which was the Ukrainians and the Poles fought each other, and there was basically ethnic cleansing went on. The Ukrainians slaughtered a lot of Polish people. There was atrocities on both sides, but there was a huge number of Polish victims. And here we have Lviv, we have Stanislav, we have Luke, I'm not sure. I think this is Ternopil down here. It's a memorial that basically reminds us that enemies can become friends again, because the most generous nation to the Ukrainian people since 2022, when the war started in February 2022, are the Poles. The Poles opened up their arms, opened their doors, opened their country to more Ukrainians than any other country in the world. And they have to be thanked for that hospitality towards the Ukrainians. And as someone that has much love for Ukraine and the Ukrainian people, I'm very grateful for the Poles for putting this to the past and moving on, because many wouldn't be able to put that behind them. But it's lovely to see a memorial like this, remembering that brothers can do atrocities to each other. If you can ignore the sound of the sirens in the distance, you'll realize that this is a very romantic city. This is the kind of city that you could happily bring your better half on. You could bring your girlfriend, your wife, your fiance. They wouldn't be disappointed. And it just shows that this is a city of love. As I walk past here, we have many locks slowly weighing this new fence down. It's amazing how many bridges have to take off all the locks over time, because everyone keeps putting their locks up. I've spoken about this many times. Maybe this fence will suffer the same fate in time as all these locks added to it. But as you can see, you can go on a boat here, the old chug boat with the propellers here. You can take in the city of Wrocław from the rivers. It's the third in European terms out of Amsterdam and Venice have more bridges, but Wrocław comes in third, which I think is incredibly impressive. Look at all these locks here, more locks, so many locks. I swear you only need to be a lock company and you will make money for the people buying your locks. I don't think people use them any other way these days. it's very different weather to the last time I was here, but it still doesn't take away the beauty of this place. The cobbled streets, the magnificent buildings, churches, literally galore. Church here, church over there, you might remember that one. I'm gonna suggest one of Europe's great cities. It is an untapped wonder. It is phenomenal in every single way, and I can understand why it's popular with the Polish tourists. A lot of Polish tourists come on the buses, they're getting bussed in, school children, university children, not university children, students. They come here and they take it in, they take in the wonder of this place. But for some reason, not so popular with other tourists from around the world, and I think that's going to change pretty soon. I hope that I don't suddenly start forcing prices up. I don't think I have any kind of influence, but I think as more people discover the place and realise that this is a fantastic, safe destination, hasn't been ruined in the globo homo way that most of the West has been ruined. As you can see, they're trying to repair this magnificent church. This church is one of the many that have these gutters. See them that look like dragons. I just love all the intricate little designs of this place. Really, really wonderful, wonderful city. Right in front of us is Pope John XIII. This is as we approach another church, but the last church of this video, and this is an epic church. This is the Church of the Blessed Virgin Mary on the Sand. This Gothic masterpiece was completed in the 14th century. It sits on Sand Island, hence the name, a small but significant piece of land between the branches of the Uda River, and its name reflects its location, but its grandeur is anything but modest. During the Second World War, the church was nearly destroyed, but what you see today is a remarkable restoration. This is what I love about the Poles. Unlike the present-day Brits that have been infected with the ideals of communism, Poles think, no, they did it well in the past and we're going to rebuild and make present just as amazing. It is really a testament to the resilience of the people of Wrocław. The sun is finally out. We've had really, really on and off weather since I've been here. Sometimes it's been grey, sometimes rainy, heavy winds, nothing like what we saw in Dubai recently. But I just had a craft beer, so now I'm all a little bit perky and a little bit more merry. And I have to say, the craft beer scene, I've never said it before, but I'll say it again. The craft beer scene is insanely good here. So I'm going to go to this place that's been recommended to me. One of my subscribers basically said, you got to go try this pizza. Late afternoon, early evening time now. So as the sun begins to set, despite the chill in the air, I'm going to go have some pizza. As the sun's out, it would be a shame not to sort of take in this square again. I remember taking this square in when I wasn't holding a camera. So it's a fairly monumental square in a way. This is where the residents of Wrocław and those from the surrounding areas of Wrocław, they come, they park up here and then they head towards this main square. It's a gathering point. You've got to realise that this is an underground car park underneath us, and underneath there is a big, big car park. But it didn't always used to be that way. To the extent, I want you to look up here. Do you see the balcony up there? That balcony is where Mr. Adolf Hitler stood, and he gave a speech just up here. This is a significant point in Wrocław's history. He stood on this very balcony giving his speech, and it's still here. I'd say that's a little bit of history there. But what we're going to go have a look over here is this monstrosity. The reality is it's actually very pretty inside. From what I hear, I had a look at the pictures online and then I had a look at some videos online, and it is effectively, it's their big opera house. It's their place where you get to see some amazing musicals. You see the philharmonic type orchestras, they put on their acts there. But this is the square that everyone gathers at. And if you're wondering why was Adolf Hitler there, I guess because it's a hotel or something, it kind of makes sense, because over here you can see this building. I walked past it the other day. At first I was like, what the hell is this place? I don't know if you can see it. Let me just twist the camera around, have a look what you think, what this might be. Have a look. It's got radio masts at the top, It's got pretty sinister vibes in my opinion. But let's fast forward because we're going to go a little bit closer. I want to show you. So not only would this place have been the headquarters for the Prussian army or the Prussian police in the 19th century, it was then handed over to the Nazis during the 1940s, and this is where the SS would have had police headquarters here, so they would have had a monitoring of the population. But when the Soviets came in and took over Poland, this is when it got super sinister. If you couldn't get any more sinister than the Nazis, it got sinister during 1945 all the way to up to 1956. There's even a plaque up here which basically tells us how this is the people that lost their lives. Oh, the police are here. The police are here.
I presume the police are here to keep me out.
The translation, in the years 1945 to 1956, in this building of the Communist Security Office, people were tortured and murdered, fighting for a free Poland. And the atrocities are, between 1945 and 1989, Poland was under communist rule. It basically meant that those that were accused of being dissidents, those not in line with the party, were likely to be arrested. Martial law was imposed on Poland between 1981 and 1983. 10,000 individuals were arrested for crimes against the state. Crimes against the state because they didn't agree with communism. And buildings like this are probably some of the final resting places to those individuals. It's a brutal building. It's right next to a courthouse. So they got arrested, processed, and then put in the courthouse, which is just this building and behind this building. I think a slightly worrying time if you were getting dragged up those steps over there, depending on who was arresting you. Was it a Prussian officer? Was it an SS officer? Was it a Soviet communist officer? Thankfully now in the 21st century, the Poles don't have too much to worry about apart from Donald Tusk. Who knows what he's going to do?
I've been wondering what that special place in hell looks like for those who promoted Brexit.
What a tool.
Look at that, the sunshine behind me. It's turned into a beautiful day, but it is bloody cold. You can see I've got my fingerless gloves on. Just over here, should you have time, this is the Theatre Museum. So all things theatrical, this is the place to come. I heard from some locals it's a really good place. Sadly, by the time I get to it, it's already closed. For maybe trip number 2, maybe video number 2, 3, 4, who knows how many videos until I get there, but worthy of your time and worthy of everyone's time. Let's go get some food, I say. I asked this exact question every time I used to go on a dating app. Which was it going to be? It's my last day in Poznan. That basically means I need to get the tram to the airport, but I want to just sort of reflect on this wonderful, amazing, untapped city. I didn't conquer this city, I didn't complete this city, I didn't tick off every monument in the city, far from it. I met some incredible people, I experienced the typical warmth of the Polish, and I have to say I was greatly impressed with this city. I'm now standing at the fountain of allegory of struggle and victory. What does that mean? Well, an allegory is a story, and the first statue it shows a man battling a lion, and that man eventually is victorious over the king of the jungle, one of nature's most powerful beasts. Man conquering the beasts. It is a symbol of Poland, it is a symbol of the strength of this country, it is a symbol of the strength of the people of this country, and I really, really do look forward to visiting this country again. As you know, I'm here frequently, but every time I come here, I am deeply impressed. I hope you've enjoyed this dabble into Wrocław, and I hope you find it is equally wonderful place to visit as I have, and hopefully I will see you on the next adventure. If you want to get from the center to the airport, you can do it in a Bolt, link in the description below. Free Now, link in the description below. Or you can take the public transport, which will take you about 45 minutes, which is exactly what I'm going to do. If you're curious about that, stick with me. I'll show you how easy it is. But if not, until next time, keep progressing, and I will see you in the next video. Well, the bus took about 35 minutes and it cost me under £1, just over $1. Good value compared to getting a taxi, which is probably about 10 minutes quicker. It's going to cost you about £6.50, £7. So if you're on your own, take the bus, you've got plenty of time. And if you're coming from the airport, take the bus and you'll get dropped off at a beer place en route, quite close to the centre. It's not a bad thing to do. I think next time I come, I won't bother with the taxi, I will take the bus. Anyway, if you appreciate this content, hopefully I will see you in the next video. Until next time, you can watch one of these videos, and as I always say, keep progressing.